Yo, what's going on? I'm Marcus. Hey, I appreciate all y'all tuning in. And this is going to be an interesting video because this video we have the a rarity to combine two things that I like to do outside of the general finance stuff. Y'all want to know what those two things are? Those two things are talk about people who do stupid stuff and end up having to pay a stupid tax, and giving my thoughts and opinions on fraud cases, since that's kind of my legal area of expertise. So this week, NFL players, everybody in the NFL just been wilding out this week. You got Devontae Adams pushing people, and he gonna end up paying the bag. We about to talk about Antonio Brown now. I don't know if y'all seen the owners of. I'm not even gonna call them my Commanders because that team suck. I just don't even watch football no more. But we got Daniel Snyder allegedly keeping files of and information on all of the owners to protect his interests. It's just kind of crazy. But we are going to talk about Antonio Brown today, how he clearly going to end up having to come out of pocket. But this was the stupidest attempt at fraud that I've ever seen. And I'm gonna be honest, most fraud that you're gonna see are done in really remedial ways. Like, it's very rare, it is what it is. It's very rare that I actually would get a file on my desk and I look and be like, oh man, this person committed fraud. And when I actually go through the fraud and I'm looking and I'm like, man, I got to put in some work to hunt down what was done. Most times it's A plus B clearly points you to C. 1 + 1 = 2. So, hey, Antonio Brown is not a rocket science. He's not the world's biggest criminal. So, for those of you who don't know who Antonio Brown, AB, is, Antonio Brown is a lot of times I see former disgraced NFL wide receiver. And so, great talent, always kind of been a head case. Now, there are two schools of thought that are out there, okay? I think that two things can be true. I think that it's possible for a person to suffer from, maybe mental health issues. And I also think it's possible for a person to just be an idiot, and with Antonio Brown, I think, hey, he took some crazy shots in the NFL. We might have a little bit of both working into play. We might have a little bit of both working into play on here. Mm, that's funny. Maybe they hear me talk about the military or something. The ads that pop up, the ads that pop up on people's videos are hilarious. I never see them because I got like YouTube Premium because I just can't with the ads. So hey, but yeah, the ads that pop up, I know I got a lot of ads for like Rich Dad Poor Dad, even though I think he's a quack. But you talk about him in one video, they're gonna go ahead and they can go ahead and blast you with stuff. And so, yeah, for everybody who don't know, AB is a former NFL wide receiver, very talented guy. Took some crazy shots, got knocked out a couple of times, and he's just pretty much ridiculous. Like, if you took Kanye West and took away like 70% of the smart business moves that Kanye made and turned him into an athlete, that's what you would have with Antonio Brown. And so, the first thing that I thought about when I saw this case, I was like, damn, Antonio Brown trying to finesse somebody for $400,000. Well, there's two reports. One report says that he tried to get $400,000. Another one said $500,000. In any event, the first thought that I had is like, damn, Antonio Brown was in the NFL for a long time. And this type of elementary fraud is something that's really remedial, and it smells of brokenness. It smells of an athlete who didn't manage their money right. And because think about it, I mean, I it's two reasons that people try to scam people. Really because they're just greedy or they're broke, and most of the time, it's both. It's a multitude of reasons. But for someone who's made millions of dollars to try to scam somebody for a couple $100,000, and we talk about you at one point was getting paid like $17 million a year, that just smells to me and screams of broke assness. So I'm actually starting to question the amount of money that Antonio Brown has left. So, the first thing that I thought was the first thing that I thought yeah, they always have some random commercials that just pop up, just the craziest type of stuff. I get commercials when I look at a video on a different channel. The commercials be like 20 minutes long, and I'd be like, why am I getting these long commercials? I refuse to. That's why I got the premium. So when I'm watching somebody I rock with, I make sure it's on the premium because I can't do the 7 minute long ads. It's just too painful for me. And so the first thing I did was, how much money did Antonio Brown actually make? Because I feel like, in the 90s, people who played in the early 2000s, we heard a lot of stories of athletes in the NFL and the NBA who went broke. And I'm talking about people who were like superstar athletes. But if you look from about 2015, 2014 to current, we really haven't heard those stories of superstar athletes who are going broke. Now, there's a couple of reasons. I think one reason is the education is higher. The Players Association has mandatory classes that they make their players take. They have mandatory training. They give players a list of people who not to do business with because these people are known as scammers. So the education has increased. But I also think that the money has gotten so large in sports, it's really hard for like people in 2015 to current who are making multi-millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. It'll be 20 or 30 years before they probably get a chance to burn through that money, and we'll actually know if they did the right thing or not with it because the salaries are just too high. In the early 90s, early 2000s, people were making $60 million a year. So I think the salaries have gotten to a point where it's very hard for a top-notch athlete, not just your average guy who in the league 3 or 4 years. I'm talking about a top-notch athlete who puts together a sustainable career to go broke. I just think we're personally going to have less of those stories. But I was interested, like, damn, Antonio Brown allegedly trying to scam for a couple $100,000. Let's see what Antonio Brown's net worth is. So I took a look, and we know this isn't always accurate, but it says Antonio Brown is worth $20 million, which is hella low if we talk about what he makes. So I needed to have a little bit deeper dive, a little bit of a better breakdown to understand what Antonio Brown's salary was. So Antonio Brown essentially played for 4 NFL teams: the Steelers, the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so I actually have a breakdown here of just his salary in general. So his first contract as a rookie, again, he's got $140,000. He capitalized and made the maximum amount of money with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so this actual dollar amounts that I'm reading off is the actual earned amount of his contract, not the total value of the contract. So this is what he actually took away and capitalize on. Because, some of the contracts, a certain portion is guaranteed and the rest is prorated based on the games you play. Just like, regular working class folks, every week they get a paycheck. And so one contract in Pittsburgh, he earned $37 million. His second contract in Pittsburgh, he earned $33 million. At that point, he was traded to the Raiders, where he was set to break the record and earn, what is it, $50.1 million. He earned zero of that contract because he blew that up. He went to the Patriots, where he was set to earn $30 million. He earned zero on that contract because he blew that up. He went to Tampa Bay, and in his first year in Tampa Bay, he earned $2 million. His second year in Tampa Bay, which was his last year, and I don't know if y'all remember, he literally quit in the middle of the game and walked off the field. But he was set to earn $3.1, and he earned zero. So I guess the question of, is Antonio Brown an idiot or is it mental health? I think is a little bit of both. I think two things could be true. But for me, when he got a contract for $50 million with the Raiders, and the reason that contract fell apart was for multiple reasons, all of which were Antonio Brown's fault. At one point, he talked about the general manager or cursed the general manager out, said the general manager was racist. At one point, he tried to do some therapy for his feet in like a frozen cryogenic chamber and almost burnt his damn feet off because the cold temperature was too high. So this dude clearly isn't the smartest guy in the book. But he had a chance to make a lot of money. But I knew at that point when he had a $50 million deal on the table and he only needed to stay on the team one more week to get over $27 million fully guaranteed. One more week and he couldn't make it. The team cut him before he even made that point to where he would have got 27 million guaranteed. I knew at that point this dude wasn't the smartest in the world. So that's in short the background on Antonio Brown. Now that his football days are over, I mean, this dude, I don't know if y'all know this, but when he was out of the league because he's a problem child, Tom Brady, the NFL GOAT, actually took him in and let this man stay at his house. Tom Brady let this dude stay at his house. Lo and behold, fast forward, Tom Brady's going through a divorce. And what does Antonio Brown do? Post a picture of Tom Brady's wife on the internet with him all hugged up with her. Like, this is the type of guy you're dealing with here. So we're going to talk about this fraud and how stupid it was and how I hope they throw the book. I mean, there's just so much stuff. I can't even go through the amount of nonsense. The fake COVID card, sexual assault allegation. I mean, the list is just too long. I actually was going to do a timeline of AB's stupidity, but it was too much work to compile all that information. But y'all know what we're working with. This dude is not that smart. So, well, he may be smart, but this dude is kind of an asshole. So let's talk a little bit about the fraud. And I thought this fraud was interesting because, one, I'm gonna just be honest. I feel like sometimes you assume the risk for doing business with stupid people. I talked about this when I talked about Kanye getting into a contract with Gap, and it was a 10-year contract. Who is going to enter into a 10-year contract with Kanye West? You know that's a one of one. You do a 1-year deal with a potential extension on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up this first article. Now, this first article doesn't relate to the actual fraud allegations, but is the same plaintiff in this actual case. So I'm gonna pull up this first article here so y'all could take a look. Okay, so this first article we got up here, let me go ahead and make this bigger. And this is an interesting article. Antonio Brown is sued and he's accused of selling a fake Richard Mille watch for $160,000. Now, the reason I brought this article up is because sometimes when you enter into contracts and do business with people who have a track record of being assholes or shadies, you assume the risk of whatever happens to you. And the plaintiff in this case is the same plaintiff in the case who Antonio Brown tried to finesse out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So essentially, here's the story. Antonio Brown takes a trip to Dubai. I'm not even going to read this whole article, but he takes a trip to Dubai. And we know he takes a trip to Dubai because just a couple of days ago, it was pictures of him on the news doing something ignorant in Dubai, which he lucky he didn't get arrested for overseas, but that's a whole nother story. He takes a trip to Dubai. He buys these a bunch of knockoff watches for like $500. Now, these Richard Mille watches are like million, 1.5 million, 1.2, $900,000 watch. So since AB hasn't been playing football, what has he done? He's kind of become a socialite. He has terrible rap music that's out. He has terrible rap music that's out, a terrible dance that goes with the rap music that's out. But he's been hanging out with the Floyd Mayweathers. He's been hanging out with the Kanye West and Madonna. It was a weird ass picture, like Floyd Mayweather, Kanye West, and Madonna listening to Antonio Brown's terrible music. But he's just been kind of in the socialite scene. So Antonio Brown, since he's got out, Kanye West named him the vice president of Donda Sports. What is Donda Sports? It's a sports management company. Who does Donda Sports manage? Nobody. Why do they not manage nobody? Because the people in charge are Kanye West and Antonio Brown. But that's a whole nother story. So when AB got his music career off, the plaintiff in this case essentially owns a record label. I think it's Secure the Bag Entertainment. The plaintiff in this case signed Antonio Brown as an exclusive artist. Now, I didn't pull up the contract, but I did. Well, I pulled it up, but I'm not going to go through it because it was too long. But essentially, Antonio Brown is an exclusive artist under Secure the Bag Entertainment. This guy signed them, and the contract is long as hell. Like essentially, AB can't put no music out or do anything without this company's approval. That's how it goes. So let's talk about this watch situation. He goes, buys the fake watch. This guy who owns Secure the Bag Entertainment, he's assured by Antonio Brown that this Richard Mille is worth $900 and some odd $1,000. So it's funny because yeah, I saw it. I was like, is this the guy? But this guy, AB assures that this watch is worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars, almost $1,000,000. This guy pays him $160,000 because he thinks Antonio Brown is a friend. What happens if you buy an expensive ass watch? What is the first thing you're gonna do? You're gonna go get it appraised, get some damn insurance on it just because it breaks. If it breaks or is stolen, he goes get it appraised, and the appraiser tells him that the watch is worth $200. So let's think about that. You've signed Antonio Brown as an exclusive artist. At some point, you purchase a watch from Antonio Brown, which is purported to be worth almost $1,000,000 for $160,000, and you find out the watch is bullshit. This is all stuff that happened beforehand. So now let's fast forward and get to the real meat and potatoes of the actual fraud that occurred. Let me close out some of the tomfoolery. And this guy right here, if you see in this photo right here on the right, this is the guy who runs Secure the Bag Entertainment. And so, one, he's very successful. I'll tell you that. I actually took a look at their website, but the fact that he got 160 bands to cough up, and he does a lot of work with a lot of well-known entertainers. So, hey, no shade to him. He's doing his thing far as an entrepreneur, but hey, you gotta leave AB alone because AB is a little special when it comes to things like that. So long story short, Antonio Brown goes to this guy and says, hey, I'm going to perform a concert and Lil Wayne is going to be there. Lil Wayne is going to do a performance, but I'm acting as Lil Wayne's intermediary. So he told this guy that he's serving as Lil Wayne's intermediary for purposes of facilitating this contract. And he said that Lil Wayne is going to need $250,000 cash. I need $250,000 cash that you have to give to me as the straw man, as the intermediary, so I can give to Lil Wayne, so Lil Wayne can perform and I'm gonna perform. But we all know the shining jewel is Lil Wayne. So this guy, even after seeing all the dumb shit that AB did, even after buying the fake ass watch from him, what does this guy do? He says, you know what? That might be a good deal. So I'm not going to give you cash, but I'm actually going to cut a check. So this guy actually cuts a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars to give to Antonio Brown, who's purportedly going to give those funds to Lil Wayne for a concert that's probably never going to happen at all. And so apparently the guy went at home, and I don't know if you've ever done something, and when you go at home, you have an opportunity to reflect on the thing that you've done, and you're sitting there evaluating if it's stupid as shit or not. Like this guy probably felt how I felt when I signed up to buy a timeshare. like I signed up to buy a timeshare while I was on vacation, and after I signed the paperwork, I didn't enjoy another night at the resort. Like all I could think about was, man, was this the right deal? Man, should I have done this? Luckily, I was able to get about it. But hey, the owner of Secure the Bag Entertainment felt the same way. He cut a check to Antonio Brown, and I'm sure he went home and slept on it and thought to himself, why the hell would I give this dude all of these hundreds of thousands of dollars to give to Lil Wayne? Like, if you could cut a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars to give to AB, don't you think you should have some direct communication with the person that you want to perform? And so this guy had an epiphany. He thought, well, the guy sold me a jacked up watch, so maybe this is the wrong path to go down. So he ended up, again, calling, putting the stop on the check. We all know AB going to try to cash the check because that's just kind of what he does. Now, this is where it get kind of wild because a lot of stories came out with this, and Lil Wayne is a very popular artist, one of the probably top rock artists over the last 20 years. Honestly, so you got Lil Wayne, who's a top artist, who's a very public figure. He'll go on a talk show and he's plugged in with a whole lot of people and talk about things that have happened. And so I was actually watching the show, and the host of the show on I can't Undisputed, the host of the show said, "Hey, I talk with Lil Wayne all the time," and he never even heard of this deal. Like he had never even heard of this deal. So now Antonio Brown is being sued by the CEO of Secure the Bag Entertainment for $500,000. Now it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because AB's track record is essentially he does stupid shit. He doesn't like to pay his debts that are owed. And it looks like he actually has enough financial firepower for right now to stave off a lot of stupid conduct that he's been doing over the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that will probably get swept under the rug. But it goes to a bigger point. When we're talking about fraud, and I do these videos, whether it's the mayor who stole millions, or dumbass Antonio Brown, or an attorney, is two things that all fraudsters have in common. No matter if it's a it could be a street level fraudster or a white collar CEO. Uh, the two things are they're always greedy, and they always think that they're the smartest person in the room, no matter how stupid their conduct is. And the other thing is, we just have a culture in a society where people just don't like to do anything that's going to take time to get to a point to put them where they want to be. We just stay in a society full of shortcuts, and I blame it all on the microwave and cell phones. But just think about it. We've always adopted this culture over the past 25, 30 years of, oh man, I can have something and I want it right now. It's the same reason that, like, oh man, I can just go get fast food because I don't want to spend the time cooking. I could pop it in the microwave and have it in 5 minutes because I don't want to put it in the oven. Like, there are people out there, like, certain things, like, the little cheap, overpriced ass DiGiorno pizzas or frozen pizzas. It's people who won't put it in the oven and they'll put it in the microwave and eat it just so they can have it fast, and the shit tastes like dough. But that's how our society is. And so, because we're used to this information being at our fingertips, being able to get something immediately, even if we don't got the resources to get it, when it's some shit we want, whether it's good or bad, the things that most people are going to do is they're going to take the shortcut to get it. They're going to take the path of least resistance. And no matter how unintelligent the scheme is, I literally can count on one finger the amount of fraud that I've seen that was actually intelligent. And I actually sat at my desk like weeks, like trying to figure out the scheme. It's maybe 7 cases. It's been maybe 7 cases in over a 12-year career. I sat down and said, damn, this person actually put some thought into the scheme that they were doing. And most times those people who do things where you actually got to think to be able to identify it, it's done from a collective group of team. Like, a lot of times you would see it if it was pharmaceutical companies. A lot of pharmaceutical companies, they were smart as hell doing their fraud schemes because they had so many resources and so many attorneys and so many consultants to give them advice on how to try to manipulate the system to cover up the scheme, or to do the scheme in a manner so that it looks like they're complying with something. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is why I'm real hesitant to trust people for shit. This is why I don't have a financial advisor, even though I probably should get one. Like, I probably should sit down and go talk with a financial advisor. But because I've seen the worst of the worst from people when it comes to taking advantage of other people who may not be as sophisticated, taking advantage of people because they have the ability and opportunity to do it, it makes me real reluctant to do anything with certain professionals, because the landscape just shakes me up. And I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of people who have financial advisors. And I know people actually joined the group. This is weird as hell, but I actually joined the group. And this group was just of people who were first generation millionaires, or people who wanted to become first generation millionaires. So I know people who have multi millions of dollars, and I would probably say 70% of them, they all do it on their own. They don't have financial advisors. They aren't going to some big wig investment firm. 70% of them, they do everything on their own. One, because they wanted to educate themselves. But two, the other reason is because, hey, they don't want to get got by the Bernie Madoffs or by the Antonio Browns or less sophisticated, or by the Jay Morrisons or whoever is the hippest, coolest scammers. Because what you see a lot of times with these type of scams is just like this producer, people want to be a part of something and you want to be a part of what's cool. So the reason this guy fell for this scam and gave AB a check that he didn't deserve was because AB used Lil Wayne's name. Like, damn, Lil Wayne is somebody. And he's one. JT is one of the only person who gives financial advice, and not one of the only, but of the people I listen to, he has yet to say anything that immediately goes off in my head as a crime. I don't know a lot of stuff, but I know what the hell a crime is, and I've never heard him say anything that was remotely close to being criminal. And so for me, that's the litmus test. If you could educate somebody on something, and after watching you for a while, you don't say anything that's criminal, I'd be like, I probably would give you the benefit of the doubt. He's a little too hardcore with some of his financial stuff. I'm still contemplating if I'm going to execute with the finance gems he gave me when I called in. I probably won't do it because I'm stubborn, but that's a whole different discussion. But when it comes to these fraud schemes, people fall for them because there's something that's attractive about it. So in this case, the thing that was attractive and it was shiny, the new toy was Lil Wayne. Like, man, I can get this deal and have Lil Wayne perform at this event. So let's take another situation like a Bernie Madoff or someone who has a Ponzi scheme or someone who has a fund in Tulsa, Oklahoma that they're targeting African Americans to invest in. The reason people actually fall for those things is because it's different. Don't nobody like it don't sound cool to be like, oh, how do you invest? Well, I invest in just, regular exchange traded funds in my 401k. Like, that doesn't sound sexy. It doesn't sound cool, but you hear all these stories of, oh, you could become the next crypto millionaire. So a lot of times when people fall for some type of fraud, there's always something shiny and attractive there to entice people to fall into the bullshit, so to speak. So, in this case, it was Lil Wayne. In most cases, it's being a part of a new underground investment vehicle that nobody knows of, and you're on the ground floor. And it's the same speech that somebody gave me when they had me sign up for a multi-level marketing scheme. I'm not gonna say multi-level marketing is a scheme. Multi-level marketing is not a scheme. It's only a scheme when the way you can make money is by getting new people to join. But this place actually had a product. Now, if the product was shit in that's a whole nother question. But anytime someone falls for something, there's a smoke and mirrors. I never forget, like, man, how did you get involved in a multi-level marketing scheme? Because I was a pimply college student, and I was like, man, this dude is telling me a great story. They even took us out to like this real luxurious hotel, and they flooded me and a bunch of other idiots. They flooded me and a bunch of other idiots into this huge room, and they had this huge presentation stage where a bunch of people in suits came out, and there was confetti and balloons and a smog machine, and they played some uppity ass disco music, and everybody was all hyped, like, yeah, we're going to sell prepaid legal because people need to pay in advance for legal services that they may or may not use. And so, like, just think about it. If you weren't required to have car insurance, most people probably wouldn't have car insurance. So in hindsight, it was the dumbest product in the world. But I sat there thinking, like, yeah, legal insurance makes sense. I think this is what I was going to do. So what did I do? I had this guy come to the college dorm, signing up a bunch of other broke ass college students to sell prepaid legal. Now, I will say I did make some money, but I felt in hindsight, hey man, hey, I had that legal shield, man. There was a card they would give you. It was called the legal shield. But I fell for the same thing that everybody else falls for when they get caught up in a fraud or a dumb scheme that doesn't really require effort. Because the guy who put me on, I was like, man, this dude don't work no more. He used to be a mechanic. Now all he does is prepaid legal. Then in hindsight, I'm like, oh, all he does is go find stupid ass people like me and sign them up for prepaid legal so he could get paid. And so this guy came to a college dorm. Everybody got student loans and just struggling to get by and on scholarships or what have you. And I literally, this guy gave a presentation in the lobby of the dorm. And I never forget, like, students was in there in their pajamas with their debit card signing up for prepaid legal. And all I saw at the time was like, because anytime someone signs up, it's like $300 once they sign up for the service. So I was just like, cha-ching, I'm gonna be balling. It was so terrible of me, man. I was such a bad person for signing all them broke ass college students up, man. Like, I will say though, I believe that it was a good product at the time. I know I should look him up. That dude probably in prison. I remember his name too. I'm gonna look him up. Be like, whatever happened to that multi-level marketing dude who gassed me up? But he caught me at the right time because I was in college, broke as hell. My car had just broke down, and I was at like a Goodyear that was within walking distance from the campus. And he was there picking up his car, and he used to actually work at that Goodyear. So he probably saw me coming in with all these zits on my face, and like when they was told me how much my car note was, my payment was for the services, I was like, I had to use my card for some and pull out some cash for some. And he just saw me coming a mile away. And then he told me, like, yeah, I'm picking up my car, then I'm about to go over to a movie. And I was like, man, it's 12:32 in the day. You get to go to the movie at 12:32 in the day? I want to go to the movie at 12:32 in the day. And because of that scheme, not scheme, but because of that pitch, he was like, I don't want to explain it to you too much. Let me take you somewhere and we'll go out. He showed me the red carpet treatment. He took me out to some dry ass restaurant to get some dry ass steak. Next thing I know, I'm signing broke ass college students up for a service that they'll never use. Man, I signed my mother up for that. A debt-free dad signed his mother up for a multi-level marketing scheme, and then actually tried to tell my mother about, oh yeah, you can sign people up. I'm so grateful that mama debt-free dad didn't go to the church signing all of her church folks up. I would have felt like a real heathen. I felt bad in hindsight signing broke ass students up, but I would have felt really bad if my mother would have went to church signing up a bunch of church ladies. But people like to sell you on a dream of getting something fast. I've actually seen a pastor who was participating in a multi-level marketing scheme actually market it to his congregation. The hustle is real. So the moral of this story is, hey, Antonio Brown is a buffoon. That's point number one. Point number two, be careful who you do business with. Just because a person may look shiny, just because they may offer you something, just because they may tell you some shit that sounds too good to be true. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. Right now, you got the internet and on your phone and everything at your fingertips, so you can really look up anything to find out if the BS is real or legit. I mean, I've seen it every day. I've seen retired teachers in their 70s lose their life savings to a client I represented who had a Ponzi scheme, and when they contributed their life savings of $800,000, and they ended up getting back like 30 cents on the dollar. Like the shit just could go left real quick. So you have to be careful of who you do business with. You have to always try to protect your interests. And I think if you take this approach, and it's probably a real gloomy approach, it's probably a real gloomy approach to take, but this is just how I approach things. Most people, I honestly think most people will find a way to screw you over if they can. All right. I'm not saying that most people are bad people, but most people will try to find a way to take advantage of a situation to put it in their favor. Everybody's not going to be honest. Everybody's not going to be 100. So don't get game like this dude did. Don't get game like DFD did when I was selling prepaid legal and hey, they used to actually be on the stock exchange too. They used to have a stock. Their stock went public at one point. I remember. I never forget. It was like ticker symbol PPD, and I looked it up maybe about a month ago. That shit no longer qualified to be on the New York Stock Exchange. It's like some off-label stock because stock has to be over a certain price for it to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So hey, even I fell for something that promised fast money with little to no effort. So let's not be a 21-year-old debt-free debt. My bad too, dog. My bad. I tried to sign you up for prepaid legal too, man. I was like, I thought it was a good idea. And so I was like, hey, if I'm a partake in it, let my partners partake in it. I'm signing people up for some shit that's a scam. So hey, that's it for this video. Hey, I appreciate y'all tuning in. It's going to be an interesting video that I got coming up. I want to actually put it out tomorrow, but this sounds wild. But I'm going to thank President Trump for a loophole that he put in place in 2019. And it was President Trump who did it. Nobody else would do it. It's a loophole that I haven't heard anybody talk about that's going to help me pay on my student loans. And I'm going to tell y'all all about it. I might do it Monday because tomorrow I want to do a review of these YouTube growth courses. Again, sometimes people promise things and the product may or may not deliver on what was promised. But I appreciate y'all for prepaid legal. Oh, see, it's a real thing. Yeah, it was an actual firm. And the crazy part was with prepaid legal, I think it's interesting because apparently overseas in some European countries, like legal insurance is mandatory. The same way you have to have health insurance and like car insurance is mandatory. So I thought I was a forward thinker. I was like, man, if that could become the trend in the United States, this would be great. But the powers that be would never allow that because then you have a bunch of attorneys working for these law firms making these set wages, and I think it has the potential to limit the earning potential within the profession as a whole. You know what I mean? Once insurance is involved, the insurance companies take a vast majority of the profits. Now, doctors, think about it. Doctors get a lot of the profits too, but who makes the most money from insurance is the insurance company. So I think that's why me as a practitioner of law, now that I got some experience under my belt, do you think prepaid legal services make sense? I'll be like, hell no. I wouldn't want it because, the only people that's going to capitalize is going to be the companies that are running the insurance game. It'll be a few attorneys who make money, but I feel like there's some leverage in attorneys being able to charge what the hell they think they should charge for their services, depending on the facts. That's kind of my experience position now as an attorney. Yep, I'll see you Saturday. We're going to talk about sweetie pies. They had some delicious ass food, but the people who ran that business was shady as hell. poor grandma and her family feuding over money. Y'all take care. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Peace.